Just another brother with another humble question. Just another brother with another humble question.
Welcome to A Brother with Questions. I am your host, B. Period. Man, I appreciate you for joining me. Before we get started, let me not forget to ask you to like, subscribe to the channel, and comment. Tell me what you think of these conversations, especially today. Today gonna be a good one. Man, as you can see, I got a friend in the room. We got Ronnie Jacobs from Fire Pit Conversations podcast. What's going on with you, Ronnie?
Yo, what's up? How are you, man?
I'm doing all right, man. I did say that right? Fire Pit
Yes.
Conversations, right?
Yes, you said it perfectly. Fire Pit Conversations, and thanks for having me today.
No problem, man. I appreciate you joining me. Before I forget, because I'll forget, go ahead and tell the people how to find Fire Pit Conversations.
So listen, y'all can find Fire Pit Conversations on any major podcast platform. So Spotify, Apple, Google, wherever you find all of your great podcasts, you can find ours. And you can follow us on Instagram at Fire Pit Conversations.
Awesome. And then just real quick, what do you guys do or talk about on Fire Pit Conversation?
Yeah, so it's a really cool podcast. It's me and my brother. We are both adopted, but we were adopted separately. And then we connected about 4 years ago. So it's kind of this really cool way for him and I to get to know one another. We're only less than a year and a half apart in age. So we missed a lot of each other's milestones. So really getting to know one another. And while we're getting to know one another, we are inviting other people to come sit at the fire pit with us, and they can share their story with however they've been impacted by adoption. So it's super fun. It's kind of like this double fold type of thing. We're getting to know one another, but we're also kind of navigating this new space of the adoptee world, and all while having a good drink or a good smoke at the fire pit.
Gotcha. I caught that. Okay. All right, man. So that sounds cool, man. I'll just introduce how I met Ronnie. I met Ronnie through my wife, Tarsha Smith from the Adoption Journey podcast. And initially Ronnie was a guest, and then it was a couple weekends now. They had the Black Adoptee meetup, and then so we met Ronnie in person, and so here we are, man. I said I had this idea for the day, and I said, I'm gonna reach out to Fire Pit Conversations,
Yeah.
and let's have this conversation. So today, here's what we're doing, man. Obviously, presidential election is going on right now. It's in the battle because we're less than 10 days now. And Vice President Harris, former President Donald Trump. But today we're going to talk about Vice President Harris and the black male agenda. Mm-hmm. So let's start here, though. I want to start with what you think about this conversation that has been resonating about, sort of, I feel like it's a conversation to scold black men into ensuring that we are voting for Vice President Harris. And if we're not, the assumption, one, that we're either misogynistic and that's why we're not voting for her, or we're just misguided. But just tell me what your thoughts are about this conversation that's being had.
Yeah. So, I don't, as a black male in education, I have not heard a lot of that. I've just been here. I think I was listening to the Breakfast Club, and I heard them kind of talking about it, or a caller called in talking about that. And I think that so much of society kind of uses black people, and specifically black men, as kind of this tool, or we're pit. It's a way to pit one person against another person, or one group against another group. And I don't know. All the black men that I know are very much in support of Kamala. So I'm not really sure where the conversation is coming from. I'm not sure who started it. I don't even know when and where it began and why. But I think I'm not even certain if it's a factual thing. I don't think that. I think black men in particular wants what's best for them, and typically what's good for Black men is good for everybody.
Okay. Well, I can give you some backstory.
Yeah, give me some backstory.
Some backstory. So obviously a lot of polling's done this during this time of year,
Right.
and so when you look at a lot of polling is suggesting that there will be higher rates than normal. Okay, so if you look at the polling, I believe at least 80, but more than likely, probably 85 to 90% of Black men are more than likely going to be voting for Vice President Harris.
Mm-hmm.
But there is, and that's just my personal belief, but if you look at the polling, some of the polling is suggesting that it could be as high as 15% or maybe even 20% in some polls that might be voting for former President Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
And so because of that, because of the polling, and then so you got polling. The other issue you'll notice is when you talk to, and so I'll speak for me, when I talk to some Black men, there is, and it's not even about Vice President Harris, it's more about the Democratic Party. And so there's just skepticism in general that the Democratic Party has the best interest when it comes to what's most important to some Black men. And then if you look at the social media, you know how it does. It certainly magnifies everything. Way bigger than it probably is.
Right.
But if you look at the chatter on social media, there's a lot of chatter on social media as well of Black men who are publicly talking about and again, Vice President Harris is the face of their disappointment because that's who's running. But I think it runs deeper in that, we've seen this Democratic agenda, because it's not like she said anything that is, vastly different than what you would expect them to say.
Right.
So it's like, okay, here we go again. We've seen, and then people have a comparison too. I think that's the other thing that people are missing is we've seen 4 years of Donald Trump, good, bad, or ugly, right? We've seen what that looks like. We've seen 4 years of, by default, Vice President Harris, because she has owned at least everything that President Biden has done. And when people do a comparison, they're just looking, especially I think Black men, is they're looking and going, there was a difference. And I can't say that, and because I fall in this category too, that there was a difference. That I think there's some things about what we saw with during former President Donald Trump that were beneficial, in particular for Black men. In particular, I think it falls in line with when we're talking about economics,
right?
That were more beneficial during the Trump era than during the Biden era. And I think one of the things that they're missing is Black men are getting to a point where economics is bigger than some of those other issues. So that's sort of that background.
Okay.
That's sort of that background.
Yeah. So I can, now with kind of that better view or understanding, I can see where people would be fearful that, us as Black men aren't going to show up at the polls and aren't going to vote for VP Harris. But I don't know. I think that largely in society, I don't think most people are happy with either party. I think people are really looking at it's probably not nice to say this, but which is the lesser of two evils? Because I personally don't think either party, whoever the face of the parties are, I don't think either party is 100% great. And so I think people have to take inventory of what's most important to them, and then they determine which candidate or which party best supports the things that are most important to them.
Right, and I totally agree. I think both parties are trash at the end of the day. I think both parties are trash. That's why I'm listed as an independent,
Yeah.
because I don't think either party, for me, when I look at either party, I don't think either party has the best interests of quote unquote black people. Um, Personally, I know that one party gets the credit, but I
Hmm.
personally just don't see it how you give them so much credit when consistently, even if you look at the last 20 years, they've had a huge hand in what policies were in place over the last 20 years.
Hmm.
And when you think about the black community, sure, there's some gains in individual pockets or areas, but when you talk about the overall community is relatively the same, if not, slightly worse, or depending on how you judge it. Some people might say it's slightly better, others would say it's slightly worse. I think it's relatively the same. It's really not changed very much, is what I think. So I don't see the benefit in either party. Um, and so one of the things that I've been doing is just transitioning to, well, what's going to be better for me as the individual,
Hmm.
and in the community, quote unquote. I think the community has to focus on the community making the community better. So, it goes
Yes.
back to the individual. And so what are you going to do to make the community better, as opposed to assuming a particular candidate that gets into, especially on a federal level,
Right.
um, that gets into office is going to somehow make the community better.
100%. Um, 100% agreement. I'm. I just feel like this is the time where somebody else could have come in as an independent, some other party that most people aren't. It's not the two major parties. Like this, to me, is a time where we need some radical change. And I think that was a missed opportunity for someone to really come in and be like, "Hey, here are my newer ideas, some newer thoughts." I think that we have got to stop putting in these old men in the presidency. I'm like, if the Constitution says that you can be 35 to run for president, why are all of these 50, 60, 70-year olds trying to run for president? We need some fresh new blood with some fresh, innovative new ideas, because we're operating as if we're still back in 1776. We're operating as if the times have not changed. And there's so many things that are different now, and we're still operating in this old mentality, right? Like we just haven't caught up with the times. And I think that both of these parties, while they're the most quote unquote popular parties, I don't think that they are doing what's best for people overall. Like what is for the betterment of mankind and for human beings and for the American citizens. I don't think that either one is just saying this is what is best for the majority of people. And so I think this is such a missed opportunity. I was really hoping that somebody would come in with a fresh set of ideas, something brand new, something completely different, something off the wall. I was hoping somebody, at least in their 40s was going to run for presidency. I'm like, this is because I think people look at this like, which of these two candidates is the one that I really can see doing
Yeah.
something. It's like I think people are not 100% Donald Trump, and I don't think people are 100% Kamala Harris. I think people are just like, "Ooh, I don't know." I think this is where we may see people not going out to vote. They be like, "You know what? I don't know either candidate that I want, so I'm just going to opt out of voting at all." I think we may see more of that than anything else.
Which is why I think they're so concerned about the black male vote. But really, they're really concerned about the overall black vote, I think,
Mhm.
because the one thing that when you think about the beginning of the campaign, the beginning of the campaign was basically focused on the idea that, you know, she's a black woman, the first black woman, you know, to be vice president. You know, now she could potentially be the first black woman to be president, and black people, you know, right? We initially saw, once they pulled the trigger on her and said, she's got it, right? We had that black woman's call happen, then we had the black men call happen, you know, and so there's been this push to, you know, to sort of rally that Obama black male vote. I mean, not black male, just black vote, period.
Just black, yeah.
You know, it was that push to get that. I think he had like 98% of the black vote when he ran. And I think the challenge that they're seeing is she's not polling like that.
Like,
right? She's not that, you know, Obama had the benefit of being the first. Right.
Yeah.
So when you're the first and you're the, you know, you're black now. He didn't catch me, but you're the first. When you're the first, you get that benefit of, like, you know, the symbolism and all of that. You know, I get it. And so, you know, we rallied behind him to make sure that he became the first, and we can, you know, talk about that. And I think she was hoping, or I think overall they were hoping that she would garner that same
energy,
but she hasn't. And I think they're grasping at straws to come up with reasons why. And that's why I think we've seen this push about black male voters, and you know, he had Obama come out and quote unquote scold the black man. You had Magic Johnson come out. He said the same thing. They had Jamal Bryant come out. He said something similar. And so I think that's where they are. But to your point about that fresh and new, the challenge with that, and this is again going back to the disappointment of the two parties, is they've already planned out the people that they want to run for the next 10 years. You know, they already know who the outline is of who's up next. And so you have to come in as either one, willing to participate as the part of the machine, so that you can find a way to position yourself to be in that short list of 3, 4, or 5, whatever, however long the list is, of potential people. Or if you come in as the outside, you have to be able. I mean, I think she's raised over $1 billion, and so I'm pretty sure Trump has to be close, if not more, as well. So as the independent, you got to be able to raise $1 billion.
You got to be able to compete.
You got to raise that $1 billion, and I think as the independent, that becomes part of the problem.
Yeah,
because the machine already knows where to get the tap running, because the machine's been running the tap for the last 100 years. And so as the new guy coming in, that's that challenge of, where do I get the tap running to the tune of $1 billion? And that becomes that problem as the independent.
That is the challenge, right? Definitely is the challenge. But I think that people are open to hearing it out. I think there are so many people, like you were saying, that are so unhappy with the parties. I don't even want to get really stuck on Vice President Harris or Donald Trump. I don't even want to get stuck on that, because really, we look at these people and if we don't understand government and how it works, we think, oh, the president makes all of these decisions. And there's so many more things that go into it, but these are the faces of these parties, right? So not even to look at like the face of the parties, but the parties themselves. I think people are just unhappy. And I think like if somebody came in with that new fresh energy, I think that rallying that $1 billion would not be as hard as we think, because I think people will be listening, because I think people want something different, but we're just operating in that sense of normalcy, and I think that's just what the problem is.
Okay, yeah, I think that is definitely a part of the problem. We do operate in a sense of, this is what we're used to, And so that's what we keep perpetuating over and over and over again. Hey man, I see we got another face in the building.
Uh-oh.
The other half of Fire Pit Conversations has joined us. What's up, brother Aaron? How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. I was trying to get it on my computer. Looks like I'm doing it from my phone. I
Well, you know
can't
that a
figure
good
out the MacBook, Can't figure this
Ah,
MacBook out. Yeah, man. I tried to download Chrome. I tried to download the app. But I'm here.
you're here now. You're here now. So me and Ronnie, man, we've been diving in already. So
Okay.
I'm gonna get your thoughts and opinion on what we've been discussing. So we
Okay.
started off having a conversation about this, or let me actually, are you paying attention about this push to sort of scold black men into making sure that we're voting for Vice President Harris? Have you been noticing that?
Yes, I have. Yes, I have.
So what's your thoughts and opinion about that?
I think like everyone has their own voice, and we shouldn't be, pushed to vote for who we want to vote for, or, just based on all the, propaganda that's going on. Because I mean, it's all over the place. Um, bringing out artists and, stuff like that. We really need to look at the, which candidate is going to help our success as black males, the most, not, what everybody else is saying. We got to look at the issues. We got to look at who is actually for us. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, I think that's my main thing. It's just crazy, man.
It is. It is. Like I was talking with Ronnie. You
Mhm.
had former President Obama coming out.
Yeah,
They had Jamal Bryant on TV. Magic Johnson has been saying stuff at different rallies.
yeah,
And it's just this onslaught, and it's almost like and I didn't get quite here with Ronnie yet, but it's almost like they expect, right,
right.
that we are going to be voting for her, and the
Mhm.
idea that we're not has to be rooted in some misguided sense of what we think about her as a woman, or anything else. I mean, it's almost like it can't be the policy, y'all. It has to be the fact that she's a woman.
Right.
It's come on, like give us some credit that we at least have brains and are thinking around here, right?
Yeah, I mean they should, because we do. But I mean, it's just crazy. Like the world right now is just so, and it's in a weird spot. You know what I'm saying? So, um, I mean, to be honest, I'm both candidates have their pros. Both of them have their cons. Let's just call it what it is. But we got to look at which candidate is gonna help us. Like I said earlier, like which one's gonna help us the most? Because they're not gonna. They say a lot. Um, there's more. There's more words behind the actions.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so piggybacking on the last thing that Ronnie has said, talking about people not understanding how government works.
Right.
And
Okay.
so let's talk about the agenda that she has, and then to connecting that to what the agenda that she put forward.
Mm-hmm.
So when we think about the agenda that she put forward, and I made a note here, so let me so I can just read it without missing anything.
Yeah,
So
well,
her
we don't
first
want to
I
misquote you. We don't want to misquote her, right? We want to be exact.
I'm trying to. I'm trying to. So, providing 1 million loans that are fully forgivable to Black entrepreneurs and others, because that's a part of the statement, to start a business. Number two, championing education, training, and mentorship programs that help Black men get good paying jobs in high demand industries, including a pathway to become teachers, supporting a regulatory framework for cryptocurrency and other digital assets. So for the Black men who invest and own assets that are protected, launching a national health equity initiative focused on Black men that addresses sickle cell, diabetes, mental health, prostate cancer, and other challenges that disproportionately impact them. And then last, legalizing recreational marijuana and creating opportunities for Black Americans to succeed in this new industry. So let's start there. What are your thoughts? Who wants to go first?
Go ahead, Roddy, because you know which one I want to talk about.
So I think there's okay. So I don't even know where to start. All right, so let me start with the education piece.
Okay, let's go there.
As an educator, right? The problem is it's not that we don't have enough qualified teachers. It's not that we don't have enough good teachers. That's not the problem. The issue, it's all of the politics. It is the behavior of the students. It is the behavior of the parents. It is so many of the other things that, like, we can get 1 million men, Black, white, or purple, to become certified teachers. The 1 million men, Black, white, or purple, is not staying in education because A, teachers don't get paid enough. B, all of the BS you have to deal with as educators, it's just too much. So I think less of the problem is, we need more. Yes, while it is very true, we do need more Black male educators. Absolutely. When we are struggling so much with having people or students being taught by people who look like them and can recognize some of the strengths and weaknesses or the experience or relate to the experiences, like, it's so difficult. But the problem is so much bigger than let's just get more people certified. Like that, like, while it's a great way to kind of start to think about it, and you're kind of putting on a Band-Aid on a huge wound, and I get it and I understand it, but there's so many other issues within the public education system. Like, I love the idea of it, but like, that's not gonna be that's not gonna, like, fix the problem. It's not gonna resolve the issue. But I appreciate the thought and the idea of being able to get more Black men certified. I think that's a wonderful idea. But I just think that there are too many systems within that is broken, because we are moving away from using terms like DEI. Can't say it in some states, can't use it. You're having to change different titles, and they're having to, different programs are having to adjust even their wording, because then it's like, it's only for Black men, so now that's diversity, equity, and inclusive, and now that's a problem, so now we got to open it up. So I don't even know how you would keep it to where it's only Black males that are and others, because see, now we got a loophole.
Others now.
Now we got a loophole, right? Others. Who are they?
Who are
That's
the others?
miscellaneous fees at the end of the bill. What's that? What are these? Who are the others?
Yeah.
Because if it's supposed to be for Black males, right?
Mhm.
And this is how this program is set up. Who are the others? ...
Right. And two, I think my issue with that particular the education piece is, like you said, I think the bigger problem with Black male teachers is it all going to come down to cost in terms of salary. Because at the end of the day, you know, I don't know off the top of my head what the average salary is for a teacher, but I'd imagine it's somewhere in the range of 50 to 60, and may even be lower depending on your state.
Depending on your state or higher.
So or higher, yes. So when you think about that, there's your first problem with Black male teachers. It's not that we won't become teachers, it's that we don't want to work 50 to 60 on average. Most of us are trying to obtain something with a greater salary, and therein lies your problem. And so exactly. if you're not attacking how much funding you're putting into education in terms of, and not even the students, I'm talking about the teachers. You're not attacking putting more money to increase the salaries of teachers across the board, no matter what state, then you're not going to get more black male teachers, and so you're really. It sounds good when you say it, but it's not
Yeah.
solving the problem.
It's good in theory.
It's not solving the problem. And even when you talk about the other training and things of that nature, you know, I know Ronnie's in education. I'm in education. It's not that the training ain't there. It's about having the students that are qualified to be able to receive the training. And so if we're not addressing the fact that they can't do math and they can't read,
speak on it.
If we're not addressing those issues, then you can create 1,000 training programs. You're not going to have anybody in them because they don't know how to do math well enough and they can't read well enough. And so when I think about that it sounds good, you know, but you're not addressing the real problems.
Right.
You're not addressing the real problems.
Because those same black men have to either come with a college degree of some sort or be qualified to get enrolled in some type of institution of higher learning. And again, so to your point, like if they can't read, and I know you see it, I see it all the time, our students, specifically our black male students, are struggling academically. And, you know, we can get into this on this tangent with how testing is skewed or how it's historically not been representative of how we are as we, if that is if those assessments are the indicators that allow you to kind of move forward, you know, you got to learn how to play the game. We struggling as a people. The black male is struggling.
Yep. And I think.
Go ahead, Aaron. What you going?
Yeah.
And to be honest, I mean, it's a good start, but I think, you know, the African American community, especially, you know, adolescents, they need mentors more than they need, you know, that stepping stone. You know, school is cool, but what are they doing outside of school? You can have the black teachers, you can have, you know, whatever you want to do with the teachers, being in there with the students all school day, but what are they going home to? Who are they going to talk to? Who's mentoring them? And that's so the policy is cool, but like you said, there's so many. I mean, there's holes in it. Like it sounds good on paper. When you say it out loud, it sounds good. But when you really dig deep, okay, where's this funding coming from? Because like you said, we're gonna want the money. One thing for sure, two things for certain, we're gonna want the money.
You got to get to the money.
Where this funding coming from?
Yeah.
So,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's it. That's all I had to say. Is yes, we need mentors.
We definitely need mentors because when, to me, if you really want to attack, you know, the issue, that particular issue, you know, well, I'll say this first. First of all, I think most black men who are looking for those higher paying jobs, they don't need motivation. That's number one. And they don't need an additional training program because they're putting in the work to be able to qualify to get to the places that they want to be. And so again, it goes back to, you know, this isn't really needed because the men that we're talking about, they're going to make it there.
Yeah.
And then the boys, like you said, Aaron, that needed the help, they're never going to get there because generally if you don't have some kind of mentor to really change your perspective, because that's the biggest problem when you're talking about young black boys, is it's their perspective on life. They don't see it. They don't see it beyond where they are in the moment. And for a lot of them, that moment is clouded by, you know, just trying to make it.
Just trying to make it.
Just trying to make it. And if I'm just trying to make it, I haven't even thought about what college might be like, you know. Again, I'm still trying to do math and read. So if I can't get those two things down, you know, all that other stuff don't matter. So
and that's the truth. And that's again where there are already so many we call it, for y'all not in the education world, we call it alternative routes to certification. There are so many programs out that I am aware of, at least in my state, to get certified. If you have a college degree,
they'll get you certified.
Oh, we will get you certified.
They'll get you certified.
And all you got to do is want to do the program. We will get you certified. It will cost you little to nothing. but a little bit of time.
Yeah.
We'll get you certified. So
Yeah.
shameless plug. Like if you want to,
Yeah, you can get the
we'll
job.
get you certified. That's not it's not the ability to get certified. It's how do Black people, Black men specifically, see themselves in the world and in society. And again, back to your point, where if I can't even see beyond today, how can I even start to plan for 5 and 10 years from now?
Right. And that's what, you know, in being a school teacher that's talking to them every day.
Yeah.
That's the problem. That's the problem. You can't get them to see beyond today. And then unfortunately, the other piece, you know, it goes back, like you said, what are they doing at home? So you got a lot of kids who either one are coming from single parent homes. And then even the ones I find that come from, a lot of them are coming from, you know, maybe a mom or a dad and then some kind of stepdad or something like that. Or, you know, mom and dad traditionally. The problem is they're not even having these kinds of conversations at home either. You know, there's a young man, just a quick example. He's a senior at our school, if you will. And so as a result, he's fortunate enough, he only has to go half a day. This young man spends the rest of his half of the day sitting in the back of the school, ultimately doing nothing because he don't want to go home. And so, you know, we've had conversations about trying to get a job maybe, so, you know, for the rest of the day, since you got, you know, he's basically done with school by 10:30. So, you know, maybe get a job for the rest of the day, something. But even in talking to him, you know, just the idea of, well, how do you fill out an application? You know, and this is a 16, 17-year-old kid. So I get that it's his first time, but it's like, so you ain't even had this conversation with your pops. And I believe his situation is a stepmom, but so you're not even having these conversations about how to fill out an application at home. You know what I'm saying? This young man, you know, again, it's school, so we could put him on a bus for free if we wanted to and let him get to the house. You know, he don't want to learn the bus route. You know, it's that lack of motivation, you know, and he's not the only one. He's just the one I'm using as an example right now that they have. And so you got to address that first. And then maybe they'll be good enough to take advantage of somebody's training program.
But also, you know, we can talk about the lack of motivation, but let's also talk about access, right? I have students who would love to get a job, but where they live, there is no public transportation. And because of their family's financial status, they don't have an additional car that they can receive, or a gifted car or anything like that. So they're ultimately not even being set up for success. They don't have the ability to access the things, right? So yes, could they Uber? Absolutely. But let's calculate how much you're spending in Ubering going to and from work every day.
Whatever the cost of that paycheck was.
Right. You are paying to go to work. So it's like, also, how do we ensure that everyone has access to getting the things that they need to succeed in life, right? So like that mentor, great thing, right? Because hopefully that mentor or these conversations that are happening at home will motivate the kid, right? Cool. But what about that person who lives in a rural area in the country? Ain't no public transportation. So how do they get to work? Even if they want to get some good job experience or job shadowing or internships, how do they then get there if their family's financial status doesn't even allow for that to happen? So again, how do we kind of close that access gap?
Yeah, that's a good one. I never, being that I don't live in a rural area, I never think about that. I mean, even in Orlando, I mean, there's a bus system, but you know, it's just going to take you 2 hours to get anywhere you want to go. So, you know, there's a system in place, but I can't imagine when you don't even have access to that.
Yep.
Yeah, access to that. So let's talk about the other issue. Aaron, what's the one you say you want to talk about? I think I know Aaron, but I'm gonna let you say it, Aaron. So
Last
what's
one on the list. I think it was the last one on the
the
list.
legalizing recreational marijuana? Okay, what you got to say, Aaron?
Do it. Like Nike say, just do it. That's all I got to say. Y'all can regulate it all you want, but just do it. This a Nike commercial. you know, I
Now,
mean,
so
go
now,
ahead.
well, I was gonna ask you now if I remember right. You're in Georgia, right?
Correct.
So in Georgia, do they have what is the word? Medicinal marijuana legalized, or because
So
I'm
they
obviously there's no recreation. I'm assuming.
yeah, no recreational. It's decriminalized. In Atlanta, and a few other counties. But they do have medicinal. But I think it's the law for it is so stiff. Like you can do medicinal, but there's nowhere here that sells medicinal.
Okay. Okay.
So that's the law, and it's really only for oils.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
So that's our law here. We might never legalize it unless one of these candidates do it, but I think it's always going to be a local law. That's the other thing that people don't get. Just because they decriminalize it, well, so most states right now it's I mean, it might be recreational on a state level, but federally it's still illegal.
Gotcha.
That's
Gotcha.
how it works. So even though, like Colorado per se, they have recreational marijuana, you can buy it, whatever, but at any time the feds can come
And close you
and
down.
close you down. And I don't
Take you
even
to
think your
jail.
money's good in the bank.
Well, I know. I remember when California first passed their laws. That was a big deal because they were storing large amounts of cash
Mm-hmm.
in safes, either in the store or somewhere else. I think in some states they've been passing laws to allow them to do some kind of banking, but again, it's tricky because it's still illegal on a federal level, and so even if that local bank says okay, if a federal comes in, it is what it is. And so I think there's still a lot of challenges with it. But let me ask y'all this. So what do you think about though putting that as this high priority for her agenda for black men though?
I don't think it's high priority. Unless it's gonna, release some of, the people in jail, locked up for, petty marijuana charges. If that's part of the whole thing, like, you go to Texas, if you have a little bit on you, they'll put you in jail, still. Different states like that. And there's, it's almost like the NIL kind of thing. You know how they just gave Reggie Bush his Heisman back and all of that from
Mm-hmm.
his image and likeness from years and years ago. The same thing. Like if you have people in there for, let's say, a gram, and they had to do a year just because you're in Texas or whatever, just doesn't matter. Yeah, I mean, put them in a drug program. I think the best thing about marijuana is the same thing how I feel about guns, is education. You have to educate people about the medicinal, properties of marijuana. It's not like if anything you use, if you smoke too much, yeah, you're ignorant. But if you use it for medicine, um, yeah, I mean, it's just all about education. I think, like Oregon, I mean, their little policy they got going on, their whole thing is education about it, drug education, educating everyone about it. I think that's the way to go.
Okay. All right.
So I think as I read it, I think my issue is how we are connecting black men to marijuana usage, right?
Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
think like if we're
There
talking
you go.
about changing our prison system so that it is equitable and fair and realistic, I think that that's great. I feel like this is kind of this roundabout way. Oh, so we're gonna legalize weed on a federal level, which hopefully will then free up some of the people who have been incarcerated for, long periods of time for a minimal crime, right? And I think, well, while that's great and all, right? Why can't we just really attack the issue for what it is, and that our judicial system is broken? And so really looking at how are crimes and punishment going hand in hand? Is this a rational crime, and is the punishment rational? Because if it's not rational, I don't understand, something that always irritates me and doesn't have anything to do with weed, but just think about a person who doesn't pay their child support can go to jail. Okay. But they're definitely not going to pay it in jail.
Definitely not paying it in jail.
So now we have something that doesn't make sense. And so my thing is if we're going to just talk about changing our judicial system, great. If we're going to talk about revamping our prison system, great. I don't think that we need to attach legalizing weed to this benefit of the Black man.
And I think a lot of the criticism, that's where the criticism comes from. It's like, okay, you made this black male agenda, and then because again, these people, they had meetings about this. You know what I mean? They went back and forth about, is it going to have 5 things on it? Is it going to have 10 things on it? And then they settled on 5, and they had to make sure one of the 5 is, we're going to legalize marijuana. That's going to get them. And it's like, dude, first of all, not everybody's smoking. You know what I'm saying? Some people,
not all smokers are Black men.
And not all smokers are Black men, right? And so when you're talking about, satisfying Black men, it's almost offensive that you thought one of the top 5 things you needed to say is legalize marijuana. Because like you say, when they talk about policy, right? Policy about reducing some of the drug laws and things of that nature so that you're not sending men to jail. Number one, as president, you can only do that from a federal level. So that's only going to affect federal. It has nothing to do with the states. And so, and then 2, if that was the intent, then you would have said it, right? Because I'm not taking on you on what I think. I'm taking you on what you say. And so what you said was, you thought Black men wanted you to legalize marijuana. You didn't say anything about releasing Black men for who've been, convicted of these crimes. That hasn't been part of the conversation. They didn't even ask her about that, from my knowledge. I can't think of an interview where they have. So, it's like, dude, we got to do, it goes back to doing better. Like, if you want Black men to come and vote for you, you got to do more than suggest things that really, at the end of the day, nobody's life is really impacted that much by the legalization of marijuana. Nobody's life. Because those who really want to do it, whether it's legal or illegal, they making it happen. and so it becomes a moot point, to put that as some agenda, which at the end of the day, this is not even something you can do from the presidency, right? That would have to go through Congress. And so the idea that you're going to convince what is currently a divided Congress to make that a part of the agenda, whatever. That's never gonna happen. And then 2, even if they somehow, we obviously win the election, so maybe they win it back in both houses, that's still not gonna be the top priority. And so it'll be one of those things that maybe they get to, more than likely not, but you put it on your thing because you felt like that's gonna get them. And it's kind of, that's the offensive part.
You want to get the Black vote.
For me, I know that I haven't done enough research, and I know I have not been paying attention enough to the race to be able to really have huge stakes in it, right? I just think is this her strategy that she put out, or is this what other people are saying? Okay, we're gonna bring in, here's how her policies can directly impact or support black men? Like, is that like
It's one of those things where I think, well, first of all, there's definitely a group, right? No candidate does everything by themselves.
right?
But I still think as a candidate, you have to at least sign off on it, right? Because you got to go out, because whatever y'all put out, it's now up to you to go defend. And
Right.
so she's got to defend it, and so for that reason, she's got to own it, you know. And again, if she thought it was a bad idea, you would think she'd have been in disagreement and would have asked to put something else on the list. And so that's what they went with. That's all. That's that's what they
I
went
think it goes back to like the school thing. It at first when you first hear it, right, it sounds good. Like, okay, yeah, you're gonna legalize weed. It's almost like a backhanded compliment. Like, oh yes, and this is gonna directly impact the black man because we're gonna minimize, or the unjust legal barriers. Like, or that could have just been the focus.
Exactly. If that was the focus, that should have been the focus. But I'm sure it wasn't. I'm sure that they said exactly what they meant to say, because, like I said, these things are vetted. They had a whole. This is probably this is a 3-4 day conversation.
Maybe it should be like a week or two. Maybe we need to,
because and
take a
then
little more time.
and because when you think about it too, we dropped this. This dropped a couple weeks ago now, I think. But it was what did they drop it for? They dropped it in part because at least the conversation is she's not going to get the level of black support that even Biden got. And so if I remember right, Biden was in the neighborhood of like 85, I want to say 85%. And so I think there's question marks whether or not she'll even get that. And so, there was this push. Well, what can we do? What can we do? What can we do? Boom, let's hit them, so here we are. Well, let's keep going. I want to kind of tackle now some of these other things. Again, it's not that they're bad ideas. It all goes back to, what's the overall benefit? So let's do the loans thing. Let's talk about that. So 1 million loans that are fully forgivable to black entrepreneurs and others to start a business. Yeah, I'll start this one. So on its face, this sounds like an amazing idea. Amazing idea. But then, one of the things I did is I put a number on it, right? So the number, we're talking about $20 billion. That's on the max. On the max end, we're talking about $20 billion if she was able to fully give 1 million people a $20,000 loan. And so that's when you go, for me, that's when I went, oh, $20 billion. So this ain't you. This got to go through Congress now. You can't stroke that pen. Not $20 billion. And so so now I'm back to here we go. So what do you think about it? So what do you think about that? $20 billion, quote unquote, to black men and others. Again, on its face, it's a great idea. The problem is you don't do these things by yourself. And so as a result, you have to ask yourself, are you honestly going to be able to do this?
Not a chance in the world. I mean, and then one of my questions is, what's the approval? Like, how are you approved for this loan? That's my first question.
If it's forgivable,
you're going to have 1 million brothers going to sign up for the loan as soon as you do this, quote unquote, do it.
20 million brothers.
All of us. You're going to have kids just turn 18. Like, yeah, I'm a man now. Let me go ahead and sign up for this loan. But it again, like you said, it sounds good. But when you think about it, like you said earlier about, just being educated about the judicial system, about the congressional, how everything works with Congress and really the power that the president possesses at the end of the day. Yeah, she ain't doing that, man. Like, come on.
So,
Come on.
I tend to think very deeply into things. So I think for me, my issue with this, it's not about the approval. It's not about the amount of money. It's not even about the system, like, because Congress going to have to do what they got to do, right? My issue is sustainability. And so, in what world do we hand over this money freely and don't create a system to sustain the business? I think it is great that you want to give $20,000 for people to start businesses, right? Because that is a way to build generational wealth. That is a way to get out of poverty or in your financial situation, right? Great idea. Not a lot of money to start a business. I don't know what kind of business you're going to start with 20,000, but cool. But going back to it is like, how do we sustain? What is the business model? Like, how are these people, these men who are getting these loans, how are they going to like learn how to run a business, learn the financial responsibilities? Like, how do we ensure that this 20,000 is truly an investment in a business and not just a check written? Because I'll take 20,000 for, and we will make Fire Pit Conversations go global with 20,000, right? But like, if we don't know how to sustain it, if we don't know how to make that money make more money for us, if we don't know how to invest it properly or how to manage it properly, like, it's stupid. It's like giving $20,000 to a child. It doesn't make sense. Like, so I think my hope is that while that's kind of like the face or the bulleted point, like, there's a system to educate, mentor, provide some sustainability. That's my hope.
And so I can see you very optimistic, Ronnie. I appreciate that.
I'm saying that's my hope.
Ronnie, we know the truth, Ronnie.
Ronnie is the cup is half full. Right.
Like,
we know
if loans. Think about student loans. When you get your student loan money, you at least have to go through the student loan counseling thing. Now, do most of us just click through it and sign at the end? Yes. But is there at least an opportunity for us to learn something, to understand how this loan is going to work? At least we have the opportunity and it presents itself for us to learn. So my hope is just that, hey, if you're going to give this money, I don't know where the money is going to come from because that's a whole nother thing, but at least teach people how to sustain and invest and manage the money. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, you keep them crossed, brother, because that ain't gonna happen. At the end of the day, she's trying to promise you she's gonna cut a check. That's what she's trying to tell you. She's gonna cut a check that she can't cash, but that's what she's trying to tell you.
It's gonna bounce now. Go bounce.
All right, so I'm gathering, just kind of summarizing our conversation here. So I'm gathering we're all on a similar path in the sense that we agree that there's fundamentally some decent ideas here, but it's basically paper, and generally speaking, we don't fundamentally see how, number one, she can implement most of these ideas, or number two, that the implementation of these ideas is really going to have a major impact on Black men. Do we agree? Or
I agree.
Yeah, I'm right with you.
Yeah,
with y'all.
But I also want to, because again, like I said, like this election here is just too stressful, right? It's just so much going on. So I know I have not done my due diligence. I have recorded the debates so I can watch them because they start at 9:00 at night. I have to be up at 5:30 in the morning, so I cannot sit there and watch them at night. But I want to hear like both sides. Okay, so here's what the Democratic Party and Kamala Harris, here's what they're proposing they're going to do. What are your thoughts and what are you going to do on the Republican side? Donald Trump, what are you doing? Like, are you poking holes in her theory? Is she poking holes in your ideas? Like, what are, like, if we do like a side-by-side comparison, what are you saying on the other side?
Unfortunately, if you haven't watched the debates, I'm going to tell you now, don't waste your time. Because the debates are basically their opportunity to tell each other about how much they dislike each other or how much they disagree with them. But it's really, unfortunately, neither side is really given an opportunity to explain who they are. You know what? I'll take that back. I will give J.D. Vance and Tim Walz an exception with that.
I heard theirs was good.
I think their debate was way better than the debate between Harris and Trump by far, because they did try and stick to what are the policies that that their team is going to support or whatever the case may be. And then you really had an opportunity to either agree or disagree with whatever policy they were talking about. But if you really want to see policy, unfortunately, you got to get away from what the mainstream media is doing, if you will, and go find you a trusted internet source. To me, that's going to be a better opportunity, because TV is all slanted in one direction.
Absolutely.
And generally speaking, when they bring on the opposite side, right? So if CNN brings both sides to the table, it's usually 5 people, one person, and then those 5 people dumping on the one. Every time that one has something to say, they be like, they just take turns dumping on him or her or whatever the case may be. So, but there are, I think, a lot of balanced internet sources that are at least trying to bring some balance to the conversation, so that you can just see, here's what this one likes, here's what this one, and here's what this one dislikes, or whatever the case may be. So I think that's what you have to do if you haven't watched anything yet.
So for your listeners, aka also for me, what are some of what sources have you found to be like just solid, credible, not swaying one way or another? Here are the facts. Here is what has been said. Like, what are some of those internet sources that you either use or you would encourage other people to use?
For me, my favorite is Breaking Points. Okay. And so Breaking Points is the name of the channel. It's also, I guess, their show, if you will. But the thing that I like about, they have two people that mainly do Breaking Points. And don't ask for their name, but I can't think of it right now. But anyway, it's a man and a woman, and the woman is generally Democratic and the man is generally Republican. And so every story that they discuss from both perspectives. Okay. And then they'll argue the merits of why they agree or disagree with the opinion that each other gives. But every single time, you're hearing a Democratic opinion and a Republican opinion, and both individuals too, while they are, certainly along party lines, they can be honest about whether or not they actually like a particular candidate. And so, like, the young lady is certainly not a Kamala Harris fan by any stretch of the imagination, but she is, she can articulate, what Kamala Harris likes. She'll articulate what she doesn't like about Kamala Harris and the reasons why she doesn't, and so forth. And then the young man is the same way. He's again, they're both voting for Trump and Harris. I don't think there's any question about that. But they can at least be objective about the good and the bad and the ugly. And so that's my favorite source, I would say. So if I'm really looking for something, I'll usually go there first.
Got you. I like that.
That's where I'll go first.
I think that's what people need to hear. I think people need to be able to kind of do those side-by-side comparisons from people who are as objective as they can be.
Right, because everybody's a little slanted. I get that.
Everybody a little slanted.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
I got my student loans forgiven, so I'm always swayed a little bit to the people who have forgiven my student loans. Aaron and I, we always joke about this. I always say, whatever candidate is talking about loan forgiveness,
that's the one for you.
That's the one for me. Like, that is who gets my vote, because that was something that's important to me. I have 2 masters, so I was in a lot of debt from school that I had no intention on paying back ever. So I had already forgiven them myself.
You just
So
waiting on
just
somebody else to catch up.
yeah, I was just waiting for it to catch up. So like again, and it goes back to what I was saying in the beginning. Like you really got to determine like what are those important things for you as an individual, and which group, which party is gonna really, benefit you the most.
Right. So on that conversation, so if you had to identify what was important to you, what would you say? I'll go first, and then I'll let you guys go.
Yeah, please. I need time to think on mine. Well, I mean, yeah.
So for me, economics is the only thing I really care about in this entire election. And I get there because, we usually, and I used to be on this. And I don't want to say I graduated from it, but I'll just say I used to be on this. It used to be about the community and what's going to be best for the community and yada, yada, yada. But as you vote over the years, and at this point I've voted for over 20 years, is you watch and you go, nobody's really doing nothing for the community.
Right.
I get that you're advocating for it, right? And certainly during campaign season, you are going to say this, that, and the other. But when you look at what you're doing overall, it's not impacting the community in what I would consider a tangible way. And so then I shifted to, so if you're going to, if the only community is going to be affected, then it has to be up to us, the individuals in the community. And so now for me, that goes back to economics, because how do you impact your community? You impact your community by, one, having access to funds at the end of the day. And so whether that is talking about doing something that's going to increase your income, whether that's building a business of some sort, that's how you impact your community. And so then it becomes, okay, so how do I do that? And that goes back to economics. And so for me, the candidate who I assume, who I think has the best economic plan, that's the person that will 99% of the time get my vote, because that to me is what's the most important thing. Because all that other stuff don't matter if you don't have the funds to do it.
Yeah.
And so if you have funds, then you can go and do the mentoring program that's going to help. You can go build your business and then use funds from your business to go do the help, whatever the case may be. Or if your taxes are being cut so low, now you have extra money at the end of the year that you can now go do something in your community. So economics is for me, is about really the only thing I care about, because all that other stuff is to me, is almost kind of like fluff. I mean, it matters, but
not really.
Money talks and book walks, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's mine. I don't know. So I don't know who wants to go first.
I would have to second yours, to be honest. Especially, I have a 16-year-old daughter. So I'm thinking about economics and she's a junior, going to be a senior in high school. So whoever wins this election, she's going to be an adult by, their year 2, year 3. So I'm always looking at it like that, like economics, like you said, before it was like, who's going to do better for us? But you got to look at it. Who is going to do better? It might be selfish, but who's going to do better for me? Which one of y'all are going to make it so, we're not paying $5 for a dozen eggs? Or, the gas price, whatever it might be. Wages. Everybody, we all want to get paid. But which one is going to make living and life for the next 4 years something that we're like, okay, you know what, this is cool, I could do this? Because them last 4, man, let me tell you something. Them last 4, whoo. But yeah, so now that would have to be mine too. And then that'd probably be it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. What are you thinking, Ronnie?
Economics is definitely in my top 3 things. For me, I think like my top thing is education and their thought behind the issue with the public education system. And so what are the things that they're bringing to the table? Because they can't fix it all, because every state is different and every state has its own things that they're doing. But what are some things, how are they thinking, or what policies are they wanting to create, or who are they wanting to put in place, or what are their ideas on how we can impact the public education system? Because to me, that is the thing that we can utilize to create sustainability. If we do have better education system, then people can make more money. We can hopefully have less crime and, all of these things. And so I just feel like at the fundamental level, making sure that our public education system is like with some radical reform, because that's what we need. And then the other thing that no candidate is talking about, or I ain't heard them talking about, is reparations for Black people. I want my 40 acres and my mule. And I'm just waiting for somebody, because he or she who says really talks about that is a priority, you might have my vote too, because I want my 40 acres and a mule. Yeah.
The issue with that, and the issue with that, right? So reparations, it's been a conversation. The problem with that conversation is nobody really wants to have that conversation.
Exactly.
And so, again, you have one party who, quote unquote, claims to advocate for it and on their behalf. But the reality is they don't really want to have a conversation. And I say that because what everybody points to is they passed a bill, and I can't remember who the bill was named after, but it was named after one of those congressmen, that they, I want to say John Lewis, that they want to study the effect of reparations so that they can truly understand the impact that it's had. But for me, I look at that as, that's a stall tactic, I think.
Yes.
Because, if you really want to know, we have men and women who have been studying reparations for a very long time. You don't really need to have a study done, right? You don't need to commission Congress to do a study to be able to get yourself educated about it. The work has already been done. You just have to go find the people, who done the work. It's almost like the reality is you want to be able to control the narrative of what the study says so that when it comes out, it is more favorable to you. But even because you even look at California just went through this, where they had a reparations bill passed through their Congress, their House and their Senate, and supposedly everybody was on board. And then it got to the governor, and he was like, "Yeah, we can't sign that." and so again, and that's a Democratic governor. That's one of the most liberal governors in the country. We're talking about. We're not even talking about a Republican. And so, if you can't convince them to do it in California, the idea that we would get that done in the country is almost, it's a pipe dream.
It is definitely a pipe dream.
And so with that being said, I don't even take a politician seriously who even talks about reparations, because she has she's done a ton of interviews lately. And I want to say it was the one she did with Charlemagne that came up. And she songed and danced her way around it. I remember what she did. She went back to the study bill, the John Lewis bill, so that we can study it. And if the Republicans would only pass the bill, then we can move forward and yada yada yada. But yeah, it's not a serious conversation. So for me, I've moved on from it. At one point I was like, yeah, reparations. And then I was like, you know what? These people ain't serious, man. What else we got to talk about?
What else we going to talk about? We know they're not. But see, the thing is, I don't want to hear about the bills, about the research, all that stuff. I want a dollar amount and I want a date. Now, if you can start to do that,
I think whoever does the dollar amount and a date can get the Black vote.
Oh yeah, 100%.
100%.
Maybe 95.
See, you didn't even need a 5-point agenda. You needed one agenda. I can get reparations passed, and then you get 100% then. See how you're playing games.
We are all voting early.
Oh yeah, we all be there early.
We'll all be out there. So for sure. Man, so man, I appreciate y'all, man. I think this has been a good conversation. I think it also speaks to where a lot of black men are with, you're not really talking to us because you really don't want to talk to us. But and then too, the other thing that I find as well is, it's very interesting how they're always quote unquote trying to talk to us, but they don't talk to everybody else. You know what I mean? We don't have a conversation about what needs to be said to Asian men. We don't have conversations about what needs to be said to Hispanic men. They're all included as a part of the population, if you will, as a whole. And so the conversation is to the population. But it's always interesting, especially this time of the year, or this time of the year when we got these, big campaign seasons going on. There's always, quote unquote, a specific conversation to black people in general. Of course, black women are kind of a foregone conclusion for them right now, or at least they feel they are. And so, they're talking to them, but they're not, because they feel like they got them in their pocket. And so because they don't have us in the pocket, now they're talking specifically to us. But I just think it's funny how, we're being singled out, we're being, quote unquote, talked to, but you don't have that same approach. And so that's another reason why I kind of switched my approach, because I'm like, you're really not talking to me. You're really trying to get my vote. And so you're saying whatever you think it is to get my vote. So I'm gonna treat you like everybody else do. They stopped worried about what y'all are saying, and they started focusing on themselves and what's going to be better for them. And then they're voting on that. And that may align to what you're thinking, and it may not.
And it has nothing to do with your skin color or your gender assigned at birth. It doesn't. Like, I can literally dislike you because I just don't like your policy. Or if you are talking about reforming, I don't know, tax breaks for the rich, I'm not in the 2%. So like that is not that important to me. So I'm like literally thinking, like, I just don't like that. It's not you. It has nothing to do with if you're a male or female, or your party, or if you're black or white. Like, I really care about the actual policies. And what I don't like is the narrative that is out there, like, oh, black men are just not going to vote, or black men are against Kamala Harris. I don't think, for me, in my opinion, I don't think it's that we as black men are against Kamala Harris or Donald Trump per se. It's there are policies that don't resonate with us, or their list of their priorities are not our priorities. So we just don't like their policy, not necessarily them for who they are as a person, or their religious affiliation or their race or anything like that. So I just think, like, don't single black men out, like, in that way. Like, because I'm sure that there's a lot of white women who may not be voting for Kamala Harris. Why aren't we having that conversation?
Right. Right.
Like, why aren't we having that conversation? So don't just single black men out, almost like we're the problem.
Right.
We just won't get on board
because we're not the black. We were black. We're not on board with the plan.
Right.
We are the problem.
I think, you know, like, as black males are, like, now, especially with this election, we're actually taking note, like, and we're saying, like, damn, you remember what happened for you, the past 4 years? Or you got people who are really looking into the agendas and really looking into policies, and people, black males, we just educating ourselves, and you like, fool me once, fool me twice. No, we gonna really look into it now.
Yeah,
because we want to make an educated decision.
Yeah, that's it. And I think they're like, oh, just saying, oh, well, you might. How are you not voting as a black man? How are you not voting for Kamala? Or but again, the bigger problem is, like you guys said, we ain't talking about everybody else. We don't see one, like, they have what we're gonna do for white males. We're gonna legalize cocaine. Like that'd be on the list. You know what I'm saying? It's the equivalent of saying for for the black male, we legalizing marijuana. The same thing is for, you know what I'm saying? We're not having those conversations.
Right.
But the black male, sometimes I guess statistically, what do we not show up the most at polls?
No, I mean, like I was talking to Ronnie earlier, we're still Biden got about 85%. Now they're thinking she may get a little bit less than 85%, but I mean, 85% is a lot. The problem
Yeah, you
is
crazy.
the problem is they want 95%, and that's the problem. And so because they don't expect to get 95%, they're panicking and worried, and and we need to get on board, yada yada yada. But because they're looking for us to vote for her like we did Obama, and that's the problem. At the moment, polling says we're not going to vote for her like we did Obama. That's what the polling says. So we'll see what the numbers are. We're only 7 days away, but
7 days away, something like that.
But yeah, the polling says we're not going to give her that Obama type percentages, and that's where I think that's where they really have a problem, because they feel like she should get the same support that Obama got.
That's tough.
That is tough. I think she's gonna be disappointed too.
Right.
But therein lies the problem, man. Therein lies the problem, man. I tell you, man, I appreciate you guys for joining me, man. Ronnie and Aaron from Fire Pit Conversations. We're gonna go ahead and wrap this thing up. Please shout out the how to listen to the podcast, how to talk to you guys one more time for me.
Yeah, so we can be found anywhere where you listen to any of your other podcasts. So Spotify, Google, Apple Podcasts. The name of our podcast is Fire Pit Conversations, 2 words. And it is a picture of us at the fire pit as the icon. So you will know that it is us. If you would like to follow us on social media, you can follow us on Instagram at Fire Pit Conversations, or on
TikTok at firepit_conversations.
There it is. So Ronnie, Aaron, please go check those guys out on TikTok, Instagram, and wherever you listen to your podcast. Like I said, I appreciate you guys for joining me. This is A Brother with Question. I'm B. Period, and I'm out.
Yeah.